I'm a slave from a land so far. I was caught and I was brought here from Africa. I'm a slave from a land so far. I was caught and I was brought here from Africa. But it was lips like fire from the white slave master every day. A dung on my knees, weeks and weeks, before we crossed the seas to reach in the West Indies. And then he make me rock, and then I walk. Good Lord, no way. I toil hard each day. I'm dying. I'm crying, my love. Oh, 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 oh. Lord, I wanna be free. Many times I wanted to run, but the English slave master standing there with the gun. Oh, I know he gonna shoot to kill. So I stay and I pray, but I'm planning still. I studied night and day how to break away. I got to make a brilliant escape. But every time I think about the whip and the emeralds, my body that start to shake. He make me work, aside I work. Oh Lord, no faith. I tried hard each day. I'm dying. I'm in my heart, there was much to say. I always hoped the boss would have listened to me someday. Although he knew, damn well knew my request was small. But the sting of the whip there, do answer me when I call. Lord knows we have to chant and sing to express our feeling to that wicked and cruel man. That was the only medicine to make him listen. And his soul calypso began. He made me walk. I said I work. Oh Lord, no pay. I tried hard each day. I'm dying. I'm crying, oh Lord. Oh, 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 oh. do I die? And then times change in so many ways. Then one day, somebody said, free the bloody slave. I was then put out on the street. I had no clothes, had no food, had no place to sleep. Worst of all, I had no education, no particular ambition. This I cannot conceal. Forgot my native culture and lived like a vulture. From the white man I had to steal because he made me work. I said I work. Oh Lord, oh, hey. I tried hard each day. I'm dying. I'm crying. On a Bible? Okay. Each day I'm dying. I'm crying, my love. Oh, 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 Lord, I wanna be free. Many times I wanted to run, but the English slave master standing there with the gun. Oh, I know he gonna shoot to kill. So I stay and I pray, but I'm planning still. I studied night and day how to break away. I got to make a brilliant escape, but every time I think about the whip and them dogs, my body that start to shake. He make me work. I said I work. Oh Lord, no way. I tried hard each day. I'm dying. I'm in my heart, there was much to say. I always hoped the boss would have listened to me someday. Although he knew, damn well knew my request was small, but the sting of the whip there to answer me when I called. God knows we have to chant and sing to express our feeling to that wicked and cruel man. That was the only medicine to make him listen. And his soul calypso began. He made me walk. I said I work. Oh Lord, no pay. I tried hard each day. I'm dying. I'm crying, oh Lord. And then times change in so many, many, many ways. Then one day, somebody said, free the bloody slaves. I was then put out on the street. I had no clothes, had no food, had no place to sleep. Worst of all, I had no education, no particular ambition. This I cannot conceal. Forgot my native culture and lived like a vulture. From the white man I had to steal because he made me work. I said I work. Oh Lord, no. I tried hard each day. I'm dying. I'm crying. Be free.
Oh Lord, I want to be free. Oh Lord, I want to be free. The cry of freedom from the African in the Caribbean. In another 2 days, we will be observing another anniversary of emancipation. All over Guyana and the English-speaking Caribbean, we will be observing. Some will be celebrating, others will be reflecting. We celebrate emancipation, we observe emancipation this year in the midst of a national tragedy and in the midst of a conversation on emancipation, a conversation about the value of human life. And slavery was about the value of human life. It was about turning human life into chattel. Slavery was about the snatching of humanity from human beings. And so emancipation from slavery was about restoring that humanity, not in a spiritual sense, not in the sense of restoring equality in a human way, but in a constitutional and political way. We Africans always knew and still know that we are free and equal to any group in the world. But the state, the government, and the constitutions were used to make us chattel, to make us property. The Mighty Sparrow, in one of the great calypsos. I first heard that calypso as a 12-year-old, listening to the radio, lying in bed. And there used to be a late night program called Night Ride by the great Ken Cosby. And I heard him with Professor Gordon Rollier, one of the great experts of the calypso. Night Ride, Ken Cosby here. And Professor Gordon Rollier was tracing Caribbean and Trinidad independence from 1956 to 1972, using the calypsos of the Mighty Sparrow. And this 12-year-old, who up till then had grown up near to a rum shop, and so I was accustomed to hearing music and calypsos. But I treated them as music, normal music, until that night when I heard Professor Gordon Rollier with Ken Cosby tracing the history, the political history of Trinidad and the Caribbean through the calypso of the Mighty Sparrow. 1956 was the year Dr. Eric Williams, PNM, won the first election in Trinidad and Tobago. It was the year the Mighty Sparrow won his first Calypso crown with the immortal Jean and Dinah. He was a mere 21 years old. And so he was growing up with the independence movement. Williams coming to power in 1956 and Sparrow coming to power in 1956. And from that day, the calypso and the meaning of it changed in my little boy's mind. And I became a student of calypso and later reggae and other Black music and our own folk music, because I understood and understand that music for us is more than just entertainment. I later would broaden my gaze to include sports, cricket in particular, as more than just a game, to an arena of contestation for freedom. Oh Lord, I want to be free. And God and my ancestors gave me the privilege of teaching calypso and reggae and cricket as forms of political and cultural expression. I taught them to white people and Black people and brown people in my 30-odd years of teaching at the tertiary level. It has been one of the great experiences of my life. I heard some young people the other day debating among themselves about the meaning of a folk song. Sanko Liki love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko by you better run. Oh Sanko by policeman a come. And some of the young people were saying it was a song of violence against women and we should not sing it. We should get rid of it. I didn't join the conversation because I think young people must have their own conversations and come to their own conclusions. But I realized that my work is not done. My work is not done. Sanko Liki love up on the dam and the gala hala murder. Oh, Sanko Bayi, you better run. Sanko Bayi, policeman a come. Sparrow would later sing about the same topic. About men beating women with the understanding, their understanding, that it was a way of keeping women under control. And then he would end his calypso. And if you beat them, they will leave you eternally. During the calypso, he said, up them down and you plug them down and they love you eternally. And then he end the calypso, and then they leave you eternally. You see, these cultural gifts, one has to be very careful about how you read what you're hearing. Sanko by, you better run. Sanko by, policeman a come. Oh, Sanko by, you better run. It's a folk song, not about violence against women, but about the consequences of violence against women. And I suspect the young people were feminists, you know, and they bring in the feminist gaze on it, but they were not being contextual. It was not a song about violence against women. It was a song about the consequences of violence against women. Oh, Sanko by, you better run. Sanko by, police are come. You beat women, there are consequences. You see, to understand the folk and to understand the cultural expression, you have to have a sense of the time and place and context in which the song or the poem or the book or the painting is being done. If you come to 2026 and you take a 2026 gaze and put it on a folk song that was written, or was, well, they didn't write song in those days, a song that came out of the bowels of the people, you're going to get in trouble. You have to understand the cultural context, the historical context, the sociological context. And when you get that right, then you interpret the song that you're talking about. So when I heard the young people saying it was a song we must never listen to, because a song about man beating woman, oh Lord, it's not the young people's fault. At least you have some young people who are listening to folk songs and trying to make sense of them. So it's not their fault. It's the fault of people like myself who have not done enough work in the public space on interpreting our folk art. It's a feminist song long before feminism was born, at least modern feminism, telling men, if you beat a woman, I will come for you. The police are going to come for you. Oh, Sanko boy, you better run. Oh, Sanko boy, policeman are come. I went there because, you know, it has been on my mind, and I you know, like I said, young people have to search and find their way. And it's good that some young people have decided in the public space to try to understand folk art. But you have to have the methodology to do it. The Mighty Sparrow, I am a slave. If you read it literally, you will say, well, Sparrow, we were never slaves. Well, Sparrow knew that. But when he used I'm a slave, he's framing what he's going to say. He is the frame of the slave plantation, because that calypso is one of the great definitions of the slave experience of the African. I was born in a land so far away, Africa, the origins. And I was caught and brought here from Africa, the Middle Passage. And having been brought here from Africa across the Middle Passage, they brought me to the plantation where they worked me, and I work, and I work. Oh God, no pay. The economics of slavery, work and no pay. And every time I tried to escape, the white man there with the gun and the dogs, resistance, and the reaction to resistance. But I stay, and a planning still, resilience, perseverance, the permanency of resistance. And then one day, somebody said, free the bloody slave, emancipation, emancipation. But Sparrow didn't stop there. He said, I was put out on the road. I had no money. I had no education. And from the white man, I had to steal. Because he made me work. Oh Lord, he made me work without any pay. Reparations. Reparations. And so in one song with 4 verses, the Calypsonian takes us through all the iterations of the slave experience. From being caught in Africa, to the shores of Africa, through the Middle Passage, to the plantation itself, the economics of the plantation, the resistance of the plantation, right through to emancipation, and then post-emancipation. Now, one has to study and understand the totality of slavery in order to appreciate how deep that calypso is. And that's why I say to my critics who are trying to talk about Black people, to say you can't talk about Black people if you don't understand the Black experience. If you never listen to the calypso, I am a slave, you will never understand the slave experience. If you have never read The Souls of Black Folk by W.B. Du Bois, or you have never read How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, or Capitalism and Slavery, you will never understand the Black man and the Black woman and the Black child. If you have never read The Scars of Bondage by Iyusi and Chaiko Kwayana, who argue that what we experience today is not slavery, but is the consequence of slavery, the scars of bondage. And that is why some of our East Indian brothers and sisters say, keep your mouth out, Black people's story. Because if you have not traveled with us and understand us, shut up and learn from those of us who have done so. One of the things that has hurt Freddie Kissoon is I tell him, keep your mouth on Black people's story. It is not that an Indian should not speak about the Black experience, but ignorant Indian should not. And Freddie Kissoon is ignorant of the Black struggle, the Black experience. And so you should shut up. We are glad for the solidarity that you gave us when you were not a snake. But today you have become a snake precisely because Your solidarity was surface. It did not go beneath the surface. And so it was easy for you to go and turn your guns on us, Africans. We thank you for the solidarity that you give us. But now that you've gone and you've joined the state to turn your guns against us, keep your mouth of black people business. I am not saying that people of another race cannot empathize with us, cannot cry with, oh God, I'm crying, oh Lord, I'm dying. If you're not an African, you cannot understand that experience. The white man could understand it, because it was the white man who was killing us. But if you're East Indian or Amerindian or Chinese or Portuguese, you understand it at the superficial level, not at the deep level, unless you commit ethnic suicide. And there are Indians who've committed ethnic suicide. There are Chinese and Portuguese who have done so, who have immersed themselves ideologically and intellectually in the black struggle. Brother Bob Marley was born to a union of a white mother, a black mother, Sidela Booker, and a white man in his 60s, having sex with a black girl who was a mere 16 years old, and giving birth to Brother Bob Marley, who would later become one of the great spokespersons of African liberation. But Marley had to become black. He started out by saying, I'm a black, white, I'm a black, to later affirming his blackness when he joined the Rastafari movement. He worked out the confusion that mixed people have to work out. When he joined the Rastafari movement and became a Rastaman, he became black. And there are some black people who are phenotypically black, but ideologically anti-black. And that is what I said to my brother, Ejil, on the floor of the National Assembly, that you are phenotypically black, but you are ideologically anti-black, because you are the face of mass killings of mainly Amerindian people. You are a product of the mass killings of Africans. Millions of us dying at the bottom of that ocean. And today, 188 years after formal emancipation, you are lying for the state. Which is presiding over the mass killing of Amerindian brothers and sisters. You see, the Amerindian once was used as the slave catcher of Africans. And today, I do not want Africans to be slave catchers of Africans or Amerindians or any race. We have no business being slave catchers. And that is the message I wanted to get to my brother. My brother, and he's my brother, at a certain level. He's not my brother at another level. My brother Egil, my brother Mark. That you do not preside over the mass killing of Amerindians. And then you do not preside over a state that catches 3 black brothers and charge them for murder, state murder of Amerindian people. You're performing the function of slave catcher by the state over Amerindians, and then slave catcher of your own brothers to face the might of the state. When the state is culpable, they find 3 Africans to make them the scapegoats. I was telling Brother One, Egil, and Brother Mark, and the other brothers and sisters on the side of the PPP. When the state commits heinous crimes, they make you the face of those acts. When the state advertises itself as progress, you are not the face of that progress. The Harbor Bridge was not named after Egil and Phillips. It was named after Jack Deo. When the airport was to be named, it used to be named Timeri. It was an Amerindian word. And they changed it to Jagan. Not Clinton Collymore, not Cyril Belgrave, but Cherry Jagan. When the symbols, the shiny symbols of the state are being named, they're named by the PPP after East Indians. Not Brindley Ben, not Downer, not C.V. Noons, but Cherry Jagan. When the bridge was to be named, it wasn't Juan Egil and Mark Phillips. It wasn't James Bond and little Leno Craig. It was Barrett Jack Deo. But when that ferry went down 2 Saturdays ago, and the people perished at the bottom of the ocean, it was not Jack Deo and Irfan Ali who were the faces of the state denial of its responsibility. It was Egil and Mark Phillips. The faces of wrong against the people, the black faces. And when the state sought to deny its responsibility of the safety and the welfare of the citizens, it put black man belly upon Plimper. 3 black men, all before the courts, one of them crying, I do not deserve this. Crying. Sparrows, I'm crying to my God. I'm crying. It was the slave crying. that morning as that black man is being hauled before the courts of murder. Oh Lord, I'm crying. Death before emancipation. The African is pulled before the courts to answer for state slavery. Oh, what a turn of events. A black man weeping, as we have always wept, by the rivers of Babylon, where we sat down and there we wept. We were always weeping. When Bob Marley and Peter Tosh and Bunny Wailer were asking what name should we give ourselves, they said, the Wailers, because we come from the nigger yard where there's always wailing, wailing, wailing. And here was his brother, wailing. Why? We don't deserve it. Yes, brother, the African does not deserve to be treated in this way. But the African in recent times has allowed himself, whether his name is Edgil or whatever name we give to ourselves, Kwame or Kimona or whatever names of them, we have allowed ourselves to be dragged into being used as the face for what is wrong in this country. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. And I have to say it, and I say it, I have to say it, because we still live in a country in which political leaders of African descent are afraid to say it. I've brought African leaders on this program and they don't speak as Africans, very few of them. Last night, Brother Todd, God bless him, that brother spoke as an African towards the end of the program. He said, we must not allow ourselves, when they're ready to charge them for more than they charge us. I've brought other Africans on, and they've talked about their Guyanese identity, never about their African identity. I've brought Amerindians on. I've brought that Sister Joretta Finance. And from the first sentence she uttered, she said, what is it that indigenous people have to suffer? She spoke as a woman, but as an indigenous woman. She spoke as a Guyanese, but as an indigenous Guyanese. I heard Sister Laura George on another program last night speaking as an indigenous woman. But I've brought so many Africans on this program, good Africans, but they run away from speaking as Africans. And you all wonder why some Africans decided not to vote for the perceived African Party, because the African Party never established a cultural connection with the young African of today. And so they're bereft of African consciousness. They fell for the deracialization project that is in full flow in Guyana. The deracialization of the African. The PPP has decided that the way to break the PNC and to break black organization, to break black power, is to deracialize the African. That is to make the African not racially conscious of who he is and what is happening to him. They've embarked on that. And they've reaped some success in the electoral arena. they got a critical mass of Africans to vote against Africans. My brother, my friend, the former president, Donald Ramotar, he said, the PPP beat the bush and wind catch the bird. They knew what they were doing. They were and are on a project in a racialized society to de-racialize the African while racializing the Indian. The Indian didn't run behind Mr. Mohammed because they're racialized. And they know that going and supporting Mr. Mohammed would break Indian racial solidarity. And they look across and saw some of their African brothers and sisters breaking African solidarity electorally. Because we have to distinguish between electoral action and other forms of political action. At the electoral level in 2025, the African in a significant way broke African solidarity and in the process handed on a platter state power to Indians. It is one of the actions that Black scholars and Black thinkers will spend the next, I hope, 30, 40 years analyzing. Some will see it as a positive action. Some will see it as a negative action. But it was a consequential action because it allowed the space for when the state is in trouble. It goes and it looks for 3 Africans and made them the scapegoat. If Africans had power, that could not happen. But Africans surrendered power electorally. You look in the parliament, the speaker is Indian. The deputy speaker is Indian. The opposition leader is Indian. The leader of government business is Indian. The African is nowhere in the power structure. There's no cover for the African. And so when they're looking for 3 slaves to bear the burden of the slave master, there's no one to speak up for Africans. And that is why when they were chanting, my colleagues and I in the National Assembly were chanting, Ejil must go and Indar must go. I chanted too. But I also said, which the media will never carry, that you all have murdered 400 Africans, and now you've murdered 100 Amerindians. I was never going to lose that opportunity because I'm a conscious African who's prepared to use that consciousness in the public space. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101, wherever you're joining us from. I am so grateful to you. So grateful to you. The symbols of what is happening must not be avoided. I watch the people of the Namstel coming out in the early morning, crying for their son, Mr. Gradinson. I shed a tear I'm glad that they came out. But when I was busting my liver string, along with others, when Vincent Alexander and Takuma Ogunse and Sister Olive Sampson and many others whose names I don't have the permission to use, when we were busting our liver string and saying to Africans, protect your dignity, protect yourself. It is not about whether you like Aubrey Norton or not. There are lots of African leaders I don't like politically. But when you use your votes to weaken yourself, they then snatch your son, charge him for murder, for an action that was done by the state. Then you are left in the wilderness to cry, oh Lord, I want to be free. I want to be free. But your agency is so diminished. So diminished. I watched my brother Ganesh. I watched Azadin come and speak to you. And I heard my brother Ganesh tell you to be peaceful. And I shook my head. I love Ganesh, but he's an Indian leader. And he has to tell you to be peaceful. But this African leader is telling you, peace must not come without justice. And that is what I mean by, I love Ganesh, and I think Ganesh is on our side. But Ganesh did not come from the nigger yard of yesterday. Muhammad did not come from the nigger yard of yesterday, leaping from the oppressor's hate and the scorn of themselves. And so their message to you is going to be limited. Keep the peace. But I am telling you, disturb your neighbor. I am telling you, there shall be no peace in the valley without justice. And I can tell you that because I'm the son of a slave, an enslaved person. And that is what I mean, brothers and sisters, that we live in a racialized society. If you look for leadership outside of your cultural context, you are going to get brandy mixed with water, not brandy. You're going to get coconut water mixed with water, not coconut water. We must welcome solidarity. We welcome the solidarity from Brother Ganesh. We welcome the solidarity from Brother Azadin. But they're never going to give us hanky and swank. They're going to give us sugar water and Carmina and water, never hanky and swank. I'm saying these things tonight because I could say it. I've been hung and suffered there, as they say, hung and suffered there. And I don't care, I speak it as it is. Thank you, Ganesh, for going to Denamstel. Thank you, Azadin. But don't go and tell people to be peaceful when their son is being charged for murder. That is a quarter of the message. Quarter of the message. But black people, my people in Denamstel, look up and see what you have become. You are Cuss Norton. Are we too black and ugly? And now you all are leaderless. We got to move better. We have always been grateful as an African people to those who stand with us. And we must be grateful for our Indian brothers and sisters who stand with us. Some of them, like Ganesh, very courageous. The village from which I speak to you tonight is called Buxton. Buxton was the name of a white man, an Englishman, Thomas Fowell Buxton, who was a member of Parliament in England, and he stood up for emancipation. And when our foreparents bought the land and turned it into a village, they named it after him. We have always been grateful for solidarity coming from people outside the group. Victoria was named after the white lady, Queen Victoria. Our first village. Queenstown was named after the Queen. We have always been grateful, but we have always been conscious that ultimate freedom will not come from the Queen, that Thomas Fowell Buxton would never lead us to freedom. That it was the Coffees and the Acrobras and the Atta and the Demons who would lead us out of bondage. Black man, catch yourself. Speak to the children. They're adrift not because they want to be adrift. They're adrift because we have not. I call on my brothers on this side, my sisters. Call the African by her name, his name. Cuddle the African and say, brother, sister, you are adrift. Come home. Come home. Jesus is calling you, come home. Come home. Charity begins here. Charity begins here. Come home, come home. Come home to the best of your ancestors. You were once chattel, and you were freed from chatteldom, and you're offering yourselves up as chattel again. Oh God, I want to be free. I want to be free. I don't want to be a slave again. Those were the cries of Mr. Grandison and others as they were hustled to jail. African, clean your eye. They do not mean well for you in this country. And they will only mean well for you when you mean well for yourself and you fight as an African. Only then you will be accepted into the kingdom of Guyana. When you fight as an African, then you strengthen your Guyanese-ness. By the rivers of Babylon, where we sat down and there we wept. When we remember Zion, for the wicked carry us away captivity and want us to sing a song in a strange land. How can we sing a song in a strange land? This land that we have died us, ride us. Oh, African, black people. Where have all the flowers gone? Where have they gone? When they're ready to jail, they jail you. When the police wants to be happy with a trigger, they shoot you. When an African shoots an African, the law goes asleep. When an Indian dies, the law comes alive. When the trigger-happy African policeman shoots and kills a young African boy, he's protected. But the African at the wheel of a basket fetching water. And the basket sinks because baskets can't fetch water. The state does not protect that African. Then I'm still, the state does not protect that African. Black man, black woman, my message to you in the Amstel. Justice is primary. Peace is secondary. Justice is primary. Peace is secondary. I love you, Ganesh, but don't go to the Amstel and tell my people that peace is primary and justice is non-existent. That is why you Africans have to have your own leaders. And you walk away, some of you, from your electoral leaders last year. You walk away, think that you are cute. You're cute. You want change. Where is the change? Where is the change? Where is the change? If Indians had moved away from the PPP and walk over to African land and join hands with Africans and say we are overthrowing the system, I would be at the mountaintop. But when Indians stay put and Africans want to be false gladiators, we end up where we are. We end up with Grandison and his two comrades going to jail for a murder that was committed by the state and not by them. Oh, Africans, why? Why you continue to crucify yourself? Why? In 2020, it was a defining moment. Our two major parties watched each other in the eye. And both of them said, we will not blink. I will not blink. And for 5 months, they watched each other and said, I will not blink. And some of us said, this is a defining moment. Put down your guns, put down your arms, and sit down and agree to run this country together. But some black civil society, the Indian community, the business community, the external forces said, no, we are going to force the African to blink. And the African blinked, and the government was handed to the leaders of the Indian community. That's what happened in 2020. And from then on, the African and the Amerindian have been trapped in a cycle of dictatorship. They are the poorest of the poorest. Some say they're the poor of the poorest. They're the poorest of the poorest. They handed the government to the PPP. They handed to the PPP party. By extension, they handed to the Indian elite. Who have decided that they and they alone have the wisdom to run the country. The boat capsized. From rescue to commission of inquiry, the PPP has done it alone. What the hell are you telling me about national unity? I have seen and lived long in this country to know that your national unity does not include me. It doesn't include me. I have no confidence in any commission of inquiry because I have not had any say in setting up of that commission. Whatever the outcome of that commission, it does not represent me. So you all know from now that I am not accepting the verdict of that commission of inquiry. That is not a commission of inquiry to determine what happened. It's a commission of inquiry that is determined, that is set up to set the PPP free and to enslave Grandison and his two brothers. That is what that inquiry is set up to do. It's to set the PPP free, to enslave and to imprison the African. It's a commission of inquiry that is intended to say that the Amerindian killed herself and himself. I don't want Edgell to go. I'm sorry to disappoint you all. I want Edgell to stay and to face the wrath of the nation. I do not want him to go. Because I tell you, if they let Edgell go, they will bring Dharam Lal. I want the government to go. That's where my energies are. The government must go. Because when the government go, Indar and Edgell will be gone. But when Edgell and Indar go, The government stays, the regime stays, the dictatorship stays. They will not be weakened. In fact, they'll be glad to let an African go and say, we bring the black man in the government and he make me shame, let him go. When you don't get mama, you have to stop granny. When you don't got mama, you got so granny. For me, Ejil and Indar must go is a slogan that is a means to an end. I'm interested in the end. That is, the government must go. When you hear me say Indar must go and Ejil must go, read it to mean the government must go. See, they're making a lot of noise about the opposition shutting down the parliament. There's nothing revolutionary about that. I participated in it, and there was nothing revolutionary about that. Jagan used to kick down and lash down the parliamentary mace and book and so on. When the PPP in opposition, they behave bad and so on. And so they behaving bad in parliament the other day. There's nothing revolutionary. Nothing. The revolution will not be fought. At Artachon. The revolution has to be fought on the streets, in the villages, in the towns, in the wards. So the PPP making a lot of noise about, well, the one handle, how them are wind up and gyrate and rhythm and drums. There was no drums there, but he got drums on the mind because he got black people on the mind. And I'm glad he got black man in the mind. Because I am going to use wherever I am, use myself to remind them that the black man is a man. A man is still a man. With them clean glass window, a black man is still a man. I will always remind them of that. That they must always look over their shoulder for the African, even if it's one. It is not always the force, but it is the threat of force. When they say peace, I say justice. When they say reform, I say revolution. When they say accommodation, I say let us stay apart until we have the keys that bring us together as equals. Stand firm. Stand firm. I still have faith in the African. I cannot speak for the Amerindian. The Amerindian will have to decide for themselves. But if I were an Amerindian, I'll be saying the same thing that I'm saying here as an African. Bet your bottom dollar. I'm not teaching you to be cowards. I'm teaching you to be fighters. It was Mahatma Gandhi, the Indian prince of nonviolence, who said, if I had to choose between cowardice and violence, I will choose violence. It is the African Prince of Nonviolence, Brother Martin, who said, the white man cannot go out and cause trouble, set fires, and want me to turn up as a fire engine. Peace is not primary and permanent. Peace is determined by justice. Peace is determined by freedom. If we're all free, then the question of peace doesn't arise. Do not go and talk to my people about peace if you are not talking about freedom. Brother Tosh said, everyone is crying out for peace, but none of them is crying for justice. We are reaching the tipping point. And I don't want the African to be left behind. I don't want the poor to be left behind. I don't want the powerless to be left behind. We shall overcome, yes, we shall overcome, but we will only overcome when we decide that we are going over yonder and standing up as men and women with dignity. Someday, we would not be able to run anymore.